Jake Morrison wiped his sweaty palms on his uniform for the 10th time in 5 minutes. He stood in the main corridor of the human ship Horizon's Edge, watching other crew members rush past him with important-looking papers and serious faces. Everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing except him. "Stop fidgeting, Jake," said Captain Ben Rodriguez as he walked up beside him. "You're making me nervous just watching you." Jake tried to stand straighter. "Sorry, Captain. I just never thought I'd be part of something this big. First contact with an alien species. It feels like something out of the movies." Captain Rodriguez smiled. "Well, this is real life, and we need our best engineers ready for anything. The Zirathi might want to see our ship systems, and you know our technology better than anyone." The captain was right. Jake had worked on every major system aboard the Horizon's Edge. He could fix almost anything that broke and improve things that already worked fine. But talking to aliens was completely different from fixing machines. "What if I say something wrong?" Jake asked. "What if I accidentally start a war or something?" "That's why we have Ambassador Lisa Chun," the captain said. "She's studied their culture for months. Just follow her lead and you'll be fine." Ambassador Chun appeared around the corner as if she had heard her name. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She carried a thick folder full of papers and looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Jake, there you are," she said. "I need to brief you on Zirathi customs one more time before we dock at the station." Jake groaned inside but nodded. Ambassador Chun had already given him 3 briefings about alien customs, and his head was spinning with all the rules he had to remember. "The most important thing," Ambassador Chun said, opening her folder, "is eye contact. The Zirathi communicate partly through their eyes. The way they look at you, how long they hold your gaze, even which eye they focus on first. It all means something." "That sounds complicated," Jake said. "It is. That's why you must never stare directly at their leader for more than 3 seconds at a time, and never, ever comment on their physical appearance unless specifically asked. Their culture sees unsolicited personal observations as either challenges or, well, other things we want to avoid." Jake nodded, trying to remember all. "The rules. Don't stare too long. Don't comment on how they look. Keep his hands visible at all times. Bow slightly when introduced, but not too deep." The list went on and on. "Remember," Ambassador Chun continued, "the Zirathi Empire controls mining rights to 17 star systems. Humanity needs those resources if we want to expand beyond our current colonies. This meeting could determine our future among the stars." The ship shuddered slightly as it began docking procedures with the neutral space station. Through the small window, Jake could see the massive structure growing larger. It looked like a giant metal flower with multiple arms extending in all directions. Ships from different species were docked at various ports, some looking familiar and others completely alien. "The Zirathi ship arrived 2 hours ago," Captain Rodriguez reported over the comm system. "Their delegation is already aboard the station, waiting for us." Jake felt his stomach flip. "What are they like? I mean, what do they actually look like?" Ambassador Chun pulled out a photo from her folder. Tall, around 7 feet on average. Humanoid, but more slender than humans. Their skin has a slight blue tint, and their eyes are the most striking feature, large and usually silver or gold in color. They're proud, militaristic, and value strength and honor above everything else. The photo showed a group of aliens in elaborate uniforms. They did look impressive and somewhat intimidating. Their eyes seemed to shine even in the still picture. "Their leader for this meeting is High Commander Zix Ara," Ambassador Chun said, pointing to a figure in the center of the photo. "She's considered one of their most successful military commanders. She's never lost a battle and has earned respect throughout their empire. Jake studied the photo. High Commander Zixara stood taller than the others around her. Her uniform had more decorations, and her posture showed confidence and authority. Even in a simple photo, she looked like someone you wouldn't want to cross. "What's her second-in-command like?" Jake asked. "War Keeper Thane," Ambassador Chun replied, pointing to another figure. "He's known for being suspicious of other species. Some reports suggest he opposed these negotiations entirely. He'll be watching us for any sign of weakness or deception." The docking procedure completed with a loud clang that echoed through the ship. Jake jumped slightly at the sound. "Nervous?" asked Lisa Park, the ship's communications officer, as she joined their group. "Terrified," Jake admitted. "I'm just an engineer. I fix broken things and design new systems. I don't do diplomacy." "None of us have done alien diplomacy before," Lisa said with a reassuring smile. "We're all making this up as we go along." "Ambassador." Chun closed her folder with a snap. "The difference is that some of us have studied their culture extensively, while others just need to stay quiet and let the experts handle the talking." Jake got the message. He was supposed to be seen and not heard unless specifically asked about technical matters. The airlock door opened with a hiss, and Jake got his first smell of the space station. The air felt different, cleaner somehow, but with a slight metallic taste. The gravity felt normal, which was a relief. At least he wouldn't have to worry about stumbling around in low gravity while trying to make a good impression. Ambassador Chun led their small group through the station corridors. The walls were a neutral gray color with lighting that adjusted. As they walked, Jake noticed other aliens in the corridors. Some he recognized from human databases, and others he had never seen before. A few looked completely different from anything he could have imagined. "The meeting room is just ahead," Ambassador Chun said. "Remember, let me do the talking. Jake, if they ask about our ship's capabilities, be honest, but don't volunteer information they don't specifically request." They stopped outside a large door marked with symbols from various languages, including human English. Jake could hear voices from inside. The Zirathi delegation was already there. "Ready?" Ambassador Chun asked. Captain Rodriguez straightened. His uniform. "Ready." Lisa Park checked her recording equipment one more time. "Ready?" Jake took a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be." Ambassador Chun pressed the door control, and the panel slid open. The room beyond was larger than Jake had expected, with a long table in the center and chairs designed to accommodate different species. Large windows showed the stars beyond the station. 3 tall figures stood at the far end of the table. Jake immediately recognized them from the photos, but seeing them in person was completely different. They were more impressive than any picture could show, and their eyes really did seem to shine with an inner light. High Commander Zixara stepped forward first. She moved with the grace of someone completely confident in her own abilities. Her silver eyes swept over the human delegation, taking in every detail. "Welcome," she said in accented but clear English. "I am High Commander Zixara of the Zirathi, 3rd Fleet. These are War Keeper Thane and Science Advisor Kel." Ambassador Chun bowed slightly, just as she had practiced. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. I am Ambassador Lisa Chun, representing the United Earth Government. This is Captain Ben Rodriguez, Communications Officer Lisa Park, and Engineer Jake Morrison." Jake bowed when his name was mentioned, trying to remember all the rules about eye contact and posture. When he looked up, he found High Commander Zixara looking directly at him. Her silver eyes seemed to study him with curiosity. For just a moment, Jake forgot all about diplomatic protocol. He simply saw another intelligent being, far from her own home, trying to figure out if humans could be trusted. In that instant, he realized that despite all their differences, they were probably feeling many of the same emotions. curiosity, caution, hope, and a little fear about what this meeting might bring. The negotiations were about to begin. The negotiations had been going on for 3 long days, and Jake felt like his brain was going to explode from all the complicated discussions about mining rights, trade agreements, and territorial boundaries. He sat in his assigned chair, trying to look interested while Ambassador Chun and High Commander Zixara debated the details of resource extraction quotas. The Zirathi Empire requires a minimum of 60% of all extracted materials, Zixara said firmly. This is not negotiable. Ambassador Chun shook her head. 60% leaves humanity with barely enough to justify the cost of the operation. We need at least 40% to make this worthwhile. Warkeeper Thane leaned forward, his golden eyes flashing with irritation. You humans demand much for a species that has barely left its home system. Perhaps you are not ready for such partnerships. Jake watched the back-and-forth arguments with growing frustration. Both sides seemed to be getting more stubborn with each passing hour. The humans needed those resources desperately, but the Zirathi held all the power in this negotiation. Every time it seemed like they might reach an agreement, someone would raise a new objection or demand that Captain Rodriguez tried to lighten the mood. Perhaps we could take a short break. Everyone seems a bit tired. High Commander Zixara nodded stiffly. A break would be acceptable. We will reconvene in 1 hour. The Zirathi delegation filed out of the meeting room first, their tall forms moving with military precision. Jake noticed that Zixara looked as frustrated as the humans felt. Her shoulders were tense, and she kept rubbing her temples like she had a headache. This isn't going well, Lisa Park whispered to Jake once they were alone. That's an understatement, Captain Rodriguez replied. At this rate, we'll be here for weeks and still not reach an agreement. Ambassador Chun gathered her papers with sharp, angry movements. The Zirathi are being unreasonable. They know we need those resources, and they're taking advantage of our desperation. Jake stood up and stretched his back. 3 days of sitting in uncomfortable chairs while listening to people argue had made him sore all over. I'm going to walk around for a bit, he said. Clear my head. Don't go far, Ambassador Chun warned. And don't talk to any of the Zirathi if you run into them. We can't afford any misunderstandings right now. Jake nodded and left the meeting room. The space station had several observation decks where people could look out at the stars. He thought some quiet time looking at space might help him relax before the next round of negotiations. The corridors were mostly empty during the break period. Jake passed a few aliens from other species, but none of them paid any attention to him. He found the observation deck without any trouble and was relieved to see it was empty. The large windows showed a beautiful view of nearby stars and distant galaxies. Jake stood at the window and tried to imagine what it would be like to travel to those distant places. Humanity had always dreamed of exploring the galaxy, but they needed resources and allies to make it happen. These negotiations with the Zirathi could determine whether humans would thrive among the stars or remain stuck in their small corner of space. The view is impressive, said a voice behind him. Jake turned around and was surprised to see High Commander Zixara standing near the entrance to the observation deck. She had removed her formal military jacket and looked more relaxed than he had seen her during the meetings. Oh, hello, Jake said, remembering Ambassador Chun's warning about not talking to the Zirathi. But it would be rude to ignore her completely. Yes, it's beautiful out there. Zixara walked over to stand beside him at the window. Up close, Jake could see that she looked tired. The negotiations were probably just as stressful for her as they were for the humans. Do you enjoy space travel? She asked. Jake nodded. I love it. I've been working on ships since I was old enough to hold a wrench. There's something about being out here among the stars that makes you feel, I don't know, connected to something bigger than yourself. I understand that feeling, Zixara said quietly. I have spent most of my life traveling between star systems. Sometimes I forget what it feels like to have solid ground beneath my feet." They stood in comfortable silence for a few minutes, both looking out at the stars. Jake found himself stealing glances at the alien commander. Without all her military decorations and formal posture, she seemed more like a regular person than an intimidating alien leader. "Can I ask you something?" Jake said, then immediately worried he was being too forward. "You may ask. Why are these negotiations so difficult? I mean, both our species could benefit from working together. Why can't we find a way to make it work?" Zixara was quiet for a long moment. "Politics," she finally said. "There are factions within my government that oppose any cooperation with newer species. They believe the Zirathi should maintain dominance through strength alone." "What do you believe?" Jake asked. "I believe that strength comes in many forms," she replied. "Sometimes cooperation creates more strength than conquest." Jake was surprised by her honesty. During the formal meetings, she had seemed completely inflexible. But here, talking casually, she sounded almost like she wanted the negotiations to succeed. "Your species is interesting," Zixara continued. "Most new species we encounter are either afraid of us or trying to prove how tough they are. But humans seem different. Different how? You ask questions. You try to understand rather than simply react. Even now, you are trying to understand why these talks are difficult, instead of just being angry about it." Jake felt a bit embarrassed by the compliment. "I'm just an engineer. I like to understand how things work, so I can figure out how to fix them when they break." "Perhaps that is what we need," Zixara said with something that might have been a smile. "An engineer's perspective on diplomacy." Jake looked at her more carefully. In the soft light from the stars, her silver eyes seemed to shimmer with different colors. They were really quite remarkable, not just their color, but the intelligence he could see in them. There was depth there, like looking into clear water and seeing all the way to the bottom. "You know," Jake said without thinking, "you have great eyes. They're really striking." The words came out naturally, the way he might compliment a friend back on Earth. He was just being friendly, trying to make conversation with someone who seemed as frustrated with the situation as he was. But the moment the words left his mouth, everything changed. Zixara went completely still. Her silver eyes widened in what looked like shock, then narrowed as if she was trying to figure out if she had heard him correctly. The color seemed to drain from her blue-tinted skin. "What did you say?" she whispered. Jake suddenly felt very uncomfortable. Had he said something wrong? He tried to remember Ambassador Chan's warnings about commenting on physical appearance. "I just said you have nice eyes." "I was trying to be friendly. Did I offend you somehow?" Instead of answering, Zixara dropped to one knee right there on the observation deck. She placed her right hand over her heart and bowed her head. "Human Jake Morrison," she said in a voice filled with something Jake couldn't identify. "You have just spoken the bonding words." "The what?" Jake asked, completely confused. "I don't understand." "What bonding words? I was just being nice." Zixara remained kneeling. "Among my people, to comment on someone's eyes is to offer the deepest form of partnership. You have just asked me to bond with you." Jake felt the blood drain from his face. "What? No. I mean, I was just giving you a compliment. I didn't mean anything special by it. I don't even know what bonding means in your culture." "That does not matter," Zixara said, still kneeling. "The words have been spoken. According to our laws, I am now bound to you until you either accept the bond formally or release me through ritual combat." "Ritual combat?" Jake's voice cracked. "I don't want to fight anyone. I especially don't want to fight you. Can't we just pretend I never said anything?" Before Zixara could answer, the sound of running footsteps echoed through the corridor. Warkeeper Thane burst into the observation deck with several Zirathi guards behind him. When he saw Zixara kneeling before Jake, his golden eyes went wide with shock. "High Commander!" he shouted. "What has happened here?" "The human has spoken. The bonding words," Zixara replied without lifting her head. One by one, the Zirathi guards dropped to their knees as well. Warkeeper Thane stared at Jake with a mixture of disbelief and something that might have been respect. "Is this true?" Thane demanded. "Did you offer the sacred bond to our commander?" Jake backed toward the window, feeling trapped. "I just said she had nice eyes. I didn't know it meant anything special. This is all a big misunderstanding." More footsteps announced the arrival of the human delegation. Ambassador Chun, Captain Rodriguez, and Lisa Park rushed into the observation deck and stopped dead when they saw the scene before them. "What in the world is going on here?" Ambassador Chun demanded. Warkeeper Thane looked at the human ambassador with an expression Jake couldn't read. "Your engineer has just changed everything," he said. "He has invoked our most sacred bonding ritual." Ambassador Chun looked from the kneeling Zirathi to Jake's panicked face. "He did what?" Jake held up his hands helplessly. "I told her she had great eyes. Apparently, that means I proposed marriage or something." The emergency meeting had been going on for 2 hours, and Jake felt like he was living in a nightmare. He sat at one end of a conference table, while various officials from both species argued about what to do with him. Ambassador Chun kept shooting him angry looks, while Captain Rodriguez just shook his head every few minutes. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Ambassador Chun said, rubbing her temples. When Jake complimented Commander Zixara's eyes, he accidentally performed some kind of alien marriage ceremony. Science Advisor Kel, the third member of the Zirathi delegation, cleared his throat. "Not marriage. The bonding ritual is far more significant than your human concept of marriage. It is a joining of souls, a pledge of eternal partnership that transcends politics, species, and even death itself." Jake slumped further into his chair. "I just said she had nice eyes. How was I supposed to know that would cause all this trouble?" "Warkeeper." Thane leaned forward, his golden eyes fixed on Jake. "Ignorance does not change the fact that you spoke the sacred words. Among our people, to comment on someone's eyes is to say that you can see into their very soul and find it worthy of eternal bond." "But I'm not even Zirathi," Jake protested. "Shouldn't there be some kind of rule about aliens not being able to do your rituals?" "There is no such rule because no alien has ever dared to speak the bonding words before," Thane replied. "Your species is the first to be so presumptuous." Captain Rodriguez held up his hands. "Let's everyone calm down. Jake made an innocent mistake. Surely there's some way to fix this without anyone getting hurt." Science Advisor Kel pulled out a thick book filled with Zirathi writing. "According to our ancient laws, once the bonding words are spoken, there are only 3 possible outcomes. First, the human Jake Morrison can formally accept the bond and become life partner to High Commander Zixara. Second, he can release her from the obligation through ritual combat to the death. Third, if he does neither within 7 days, he will be considered to have dishonored our most sacred tradition, and our empire will be forced to respond accordingly." "What does respond accordingly mean?" Lisa Park asked nervously. Thane's expression grew dark. "It means war." The room fell. Silent. Jake stared at the table, trying to process what he had just heard. His simple compliment had somehow put 2 entire species on the path to war. "This is insane," Ambassador Chun said. "We're talking about starting an interstellar conflict because of a misunderstanding about a compliment. To you, it may seem like just a compliment," Science Advisor Kel replied. "To us, it is as serious as if someone had claimed to be our emperor or declared themselves a god. The bonding words are the most sacred part of our culture. Jake finally looked up from the table. Where is Commander Zixara? Shouldn't she be part of this discussion? I mean, she's the one I accidentally bonded with or whatever. The High Commander is in ritual seclusion, Thane explained. Once the bonding words are spoken, the recipient must spend time in meditation, considering their response. She cannot speak to anyone except you during this period. Me? Jake squeaked. You want me to talk to her? It is required, Cal said, consulting his book again. Each day of the 7-day contemplation period, you must share a meal with her and engage in conversation. This allows both parties to determine if the bond is genuine. Ambassador Chun stood up abruptly. Absolutely not. Jake is not going to participate in alien bonding rituals. We need to find another way out of this mess. There is no other way, Thane said firmly. Either your engineer follows our customs, or he dishonors them. And if he dishonors them, war, Captain Rodriguez finished grimly. You've made that clear. Jake felt sick to his stomach. The weight of responsibility was crushing. The future of humanity's expansion into space, possibly the survival of both species, now depended on his actions. And he was just an engineer who fixed broken machines. What happens if I accept the bond? Jake asked quietly. I mean, what would that actually involve? Science Advisor Kel flipped through several pages of his book. You would become a citizen of the Zirithi Empire with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. You would be expected to serve alongside High Commander Zixara in whatever capacity the Empire requires. The bond itself is permanent and cannot be broken except by death. And if I choose ritual combat, you would fight Warkeeper Thane too. The death, Kel replied matter-of-factly. He serves as the High Commander's champion in such matters. Jake looked at Thane's muscular frame and knew he wouldn't last 10 seconds in a fight against the alien warrior. So my choices are become an alien citizen for life or get killed in a fight I can't win. Those are the traditional options, yes. Kel confirmed. This is ridiculous, Lisa Park said. There has to be some kind of diplomatic solution. Some way to honor their customs without Jake having to give up his entire life or die trying. Thane shook his head. The law is clear. There are no other options. Jake sat in silence for several minutes, thinking. Finally, he looked up at the Zirithi officials. What is Commander Zixara like? I mean, really like, not just her military record. The question seemed to surprise them. Thane and Kel exchanged glances before Thane answered. High Commander Zixara is complicated, Thane said slowly. She is the finest military leader our empire has produced in 3 generations. She has never lost a battle, never retreated from an enemy, never shown weakness in the face of adversity. That's her professional side, Jake said. What about her as a person? Thane was quiet for a long moment. She is lonely, he finally admitted. Command is isolating, especially for someone who has achieved her level of success. She has no close friends, no family, no one she can trust completely. The burden of leadership has made her strong, but it has also made her ... alone. Science Advisor Kel nodded. It is why many of us were surprised by her reaction to your words. In all the years I have known her, I have never seen her show such ... emotion. What kind of emotion? Ambassador Chun asked. Hope, Kel replied simply. For the first time in years, she looked hopeful. Jake felt a strange mixture of guilt and curiosity. He had accidentally given this alien commander something she hadn't expected to find, hope for companionship. But he had also potentially started a war. If I go through with these daily meals, Jake said, what am I supposed to talk to her about? Anything you wish, Kel replied. The purpose is for both parties to understand each other's true nature. You may discuss your interests, your dreams, your fears. The goal is to determine if the bond would be genuine or merely ceremonial. Captain Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. Jake, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. What? Other way? Jake asked. You heard them. It's this or war. And I'm not exactly eager to fight Thane to the death. Ambassador Chun stood up and began pacing. The Zirathi fleet is already moving toward this station. Our intelligence reports suggest they're split into factions. Some want to use this bonding situation to force humanity into their empire. Others consider it blasphemy and want to punish us for violating their sacred traditions. How long do we have? Jake asked. The 7-day contemplation period, Thane replied. But if High Commander Zixara does not make her decision by then, the matter will be taken out of her hands. The War Council will vote on how to respond. Jake stood up slowly. Then I guess I better start having those meals with her. Maybe if I can understand what this bonding thing really means, I can figure out a way to fix this mess. Jake, Ambassador. Chun said, You're not trained for this kind of cultural interaction. One wrong word could make things worse. One wrong word already made things worse, Jake replied. But maybe the right words can make them better. Science Advisor Kell closed his book. The first meal is scheduled for tomorrow at midday. You will meet in the High Commander's private quarters aboard her ship. Her ship? Jake asked nervously. The ritual seclusion must take place on Zirathi territory, Kell explained. Her ship is considered part of the Empire for legal purposes. Ambassador Chun shook her head. I don't like this. Jake will be completely alone on an alien ship with no backup if things go wrong. If things go wrong, Thane said quietly, backup will not help him. The High Commander could kill him with her bare hands if she chose to, but she will not. The bonding period is sacred. No harm can come to either party during the 7 days. Jake took a deep breath. Okay then. I guess I'm having lunch with an alien commander tomorrow. Just a normal day in the life of Jake Morrison, starship engineer. As the meeting broke up, Jake couldn't help but wonder what he had gotten himself into. He had joined this mission to help humanity reach for the stars. Now he might have to choose between his own life and the future of his entire species. And it all started because he thought someone had nice eyes. Jake stood outside the airlock leading to the Zirathi ship, trying to calm his nerves. His hands were shaking slightly as he checked his uniform for the 3rd time. Ambassador Chun stood beside him, giving him last-minute instructions. Remember, be polite, but don't volunteer information about Earth or our military capabilities, she said. And whatever you do, don't make any more comments about anyone's appearance. I think I learned that lesson, Jake replied nervously. What if I say something else that accidentally means something terrible in their culture? Just be yourself, Captain Rodriguez said. You're a good person, Jake. That's why this whole situation happened in the first place. You were trying to be kind. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Science Advisor Kell appeared on the other side. Human Jake Morrison, High Commander Zixara is ready to receive you. Jake took a deep breath and stepped through the airlock onto the Zirathi ship. The interior was different from human ships. The corridors were taller, and the lighting had a blue tint that made everything look slightly otherworldly. The walls were decorated with symbols that Jake assumed had important meaning to the Zirathi. The High Commander's quarters are this way, Kell said, leading Jake through several corridors. Remember, during the bonding contemplation period, you may speak freely about any topic. The purpose is for both parties to understand each other completely. They stopped outside a door marked with elaborate symbols. Kell pressed his hand against a panel, and the door slid open. I will return in exactly 1 hour, Kell said. Do not leave these quarters until I come for you. Jake nodded and stepped inside. The room was larger than he had expected, with a seating area, a dining table, and large windows showing the stars outside. High Commander Zixara stood near the windows, still wearing her military uniform, but without some of the formal decorations. "Human Jake Morrison," she said formally. "Please sit. Our meal is prepared." Jake sat at the dining table, noticing that the chairs had been adjusted to human proportions. The food was completely unfamiliar, various dishes in colors and textures he had never seen before. "Is this safe for humans to eat?" he asked, then immediately worried that he had been rude. "Science Advisor Kell researched human dietary requirements," Zixara replied. "Everything here is safe for your species, though the taste may be unfamiliar." Jake tried a small bite of something that looked like purple vegetables. It tasted sweet and spicy at the same time, not unpleasant, but definitely alien. "It's actually pretty good," he said, surprised. Zixara seemed to relax slightly. "I am pleased it meets your approval." They ate in awkward silence for several minutes. Jake kept stealing glances at the alien commander, trying to figure out what he was supposed to say. Finally, he decided to just ask directly. "So, how does this work exactly? I mean, what are we supposed to talk about?" "We are meant to share our thoughts, our experiences, our true selves," Zixara replied. "The bonding contemplation allows both parties to determine if they are truly compatible." "Compatible for what, exactly?" "I still don't really understand what this bonding thing involves." Zixara set down her eating utensil and looked directly at him. "Among my people, the life bond is the deepest form of partnership possible. Bonded pairs share everything, their successes, their failures, their hopes, their fears. They support each other in all things and face the universe as one unified force." "That sounds intense," Jake said. "It is. That is why the bonding words are not spoken lightly. To comment on someone's eyes is to say that you see their true soul and find it worthy of eternal partnership." Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks. "I really didn't know. I was just trying to be friendly." "I know," Zixara said quietly. "Your ignorance of our customs does not change the fact that you spoke the words, but it does make me curious about your motivations." "What do you mean? Why did you feel compelled to compliment me? We barely knew each other." Jake thought about it for a moment. "You looked frustrated during the negotiations. And when I saw you in the observation deck, you seemed tired and maybe a little sad. I guess I wanted to cheer you up somehow." Zixara stared at him for a long moment. "You wanted to cheer me up?" "Yeah, I mean, this whole situation is stressful. For everyone. I thought maybe if I was friendly, it might help both of us feel a little better. In my culture, showing concern for an enemy's emotional state would be considered weakness." "But you're not my enemy," Jake said. "You're just someone trying to do a difficult job, same as me." Something in Zixara's expression shifted. "Most species we encounter see us only as conquerors or obstacles to overcome. You are the first to express concern for my well-being. Well, you seem like you carry a lot of responsibility." "That can't be easy." Zixara was quiet for several minutes, picking at her food. "You are correct. Command is ... isolating. I have spent so many years focused on duty and honor that I have forgotten what it feels like to have someone simply care about my welfare. Don't you have friends? Family? A Zirathi commander cannot show favoritism or weakness. Personal relationships are seen as potential vulnerabilities that enemies could exploit. I have subordinates and superiors, but no friends." Jake felt a wave of sympathy for her. "That sounds lonely." "It is. But it is the price of leadership." "Maybe it doesn't have to be," Jake suggested. "I mean, humans have leaders who still maintain personal relationships. Our captains and admirals have friends and families. It actually makes them better leaders because they understand what they're fighting to protect. Zixara looked at him with genuine curiosity. Tell me about your relationships. Do you have a family? A mate? I have parents back on Earth, and a sister who's studying to be a doctor. No girlfriend right now. I spend most of my time working on ships, and it's hard to maintain relationships when you're traveling between star systems all the time. You chose your career over personal bonds? Not exactly. I love my work, and I believe it's important. But I always thought I'd find someone eventually who understood that about me. Someone who wouldn't mind that I talk too much about engine specifications and get excited about new technology. You speak of finding someone as if it were a quest. Jake laughed. I guess it kind of is. Humans spend a lot of time looking for the right person to share their lives with. Someone who complements them, who makes them better than they are alone. That is remarkably similar to the concept of life bonding, Zixara observed. Really? How so? The ideal life bond is between two individuals who strengthen each other. Where one is weak, the other is strong. Where one doubts, the other provides certainty. Together, they become greater than either could be alone. Jake considered. That actually sounds pretty nice when you put it that way. They continued talking throughout the meal, sharing stories about their childhoods, their career choices, their hopes for the future. Jake was surprised to discover how much they had in common, despite being from different species. They both loved learning new things. Both felt a strong sense of duty to their people, and both sometimes felt overwhelmed by the responsibilities placed on them. Your species is fascinating, Zixara said as they finished eating. You combine strength with compassion in ways I have never encountered before. You're pretty remarkable yourself, Jake replied. I mean, you've achieved so much, but you're still thoughtful about the cost of your decisions. That takes wisdom. Zixara's silver eyes seemed to brighten. Thank you. That means more than you might realize. Science advisor Kell returned exactly when he had promised, and Jake prepared to leave. As he stood up, Zixara also rose. Human Jake Morrison, she said formally. I look forward to our conversation tomorrow. Me too, Jake replied, and was surprised to realize he meant it Dot as Kell escorted him back to the airlock. Jake reflected on how different the meeting had been from what he had expected. Instead of awkward alien rituals, he had simply had a conversation with someone who turned out to be thoughtful, intelligent, and surprisingly relatable. When he returned to the human ship, Ambassador Chun immediately began questioning him about what had been discussed. It was just talking, Jake said. She's actually pretty easy to talk to once you get past all the formal military stuff. Jake, Captain Rodriguez said seriously, you realize that the more you connect with her, the harder this decision becomes. Jake nodded. I know, but maybe that's the point. Maybe understanding each other is the first step toward finding a solution that works for everyone. Ambassador Chun shook her head. Or maybe you're getting emotionally involved in a situation that could still end in war. That night, Jake lay in his bunk thinking about his conversation with Zixara. He had expected to feel trapped or frightened by the bonding situation. Instead, he found himself curious about what tomorrow's conversation would bring. For the first time since this whole mess started, Jake began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was a way for this story to have a happy ending. The 7th day had arrived, and Jake felt like he was standing at the edge of a cliff. In a few hours, High Commander Zixara would have to make her decision about the bonding ritual. The past week of daily meals and conversations had changed everything for Jake. What had started as a diplomatic disaster had become something much more complicated. He sat in his quarters aboard the human ship, staring out at the stars and thinking about everything Zixara had shared with him over the past 6 days. She had told him about her childhood on a harsh military world, about the pressure to succeed that had driven her to the top of her profession, and about the loneliness that came with command. In return, Jake had shared his own dreams of exploring the galaxy and his belief that different species could work together if they just took the time to understand each other. "Jake," Captain Rodriguez said, entering his quarters without knocking. "Ambassador Chun wants to see you in the conference room. There's been a development." Jake followed the captain to the conference room, where he found Ambassador Chun studying a display showing ship movements around the space station. Her expression was grim. "The Zirithi fleet has split into two groups," she explained. "About half the ships are moving closer to the station, while the others are holding back. Our intelligence suggests there's been some kind of disagreement in their command structure." "What kind of disagreement?" Jake asked. "The kind that could lead to fighting among the Zirithi themselves," Ambassador Chun replied. "Some of their commanders apparently see your bonding situation as an opportunity to force humanity into their empire. Others consider it an insult to their traditions and want to punish us for it." Warkeeper Thane appeared on the main screen, his golden eyes serious. "Human delegation, I must speak with Engineer Morrison immediately. The situation has become more complicated than we anticipated." Jake stepped forward. "I'm here, Thane. What's happening?" "Several war chiefs from the outer fleets have arrived at the station. They do not accept High Commander Zixara's authority in this matter and demand that I challenge you to combat immediately, regardless of her decision." "But I thought you said the 7-day contemplation period was sacred," Jake protested. "It is, but some of our people believe that allowing an alien to participate in our bonding ritual at all is blasphemy. They want to end this situation by ending you." Ambassador Chun stepped forward. "And what do you think, Warkeeper Thane?" Thane was quiet for a long moment. "I have watched Engineer Morrison these past 7 days. I have seen how he treats our High Commander with respect and genuine kindness. Whatever his original intentions, he has honored our customs during the contemplation period." "That means something. So what happens now?" Jake asked. "High Commander Zixara must make her decision today, as scheduled. But regardless of what she chooses, the war chiefs may not accept it. They are demanding a combat trial to settle the matter by force." Jake felt his stomach drop. "Combat against who?" "Against me, as originally planned, but also against any warrior who chooses to champion the war chief's position. You could face multiple opponents." "That's not fair," Jake said. "I'm not a warrior. I wouldn't stand a chance against one of you, let alone several." "I know," Thane replied quietly, "which is why I hope High Commander Zixara chooses wisely." The transmission ended, leaving the human delegation in tense silence. Jake slumped into a chair, feeling the weight of the impossible situation pressing down on him. "There has to be another way," Captain Rodriguez said. "Some solution we haven't thought of yet." "Maybe there is," Jake said slowly. An idea was forming in his mind, something Zixara had said during one of their conversations. What if we don't follow their traditional options at all? What if we create something new? "What do you mean?" Ambassador Chun asked. Zixara told me that the bonding ritual is about creating unity between two people who make each other stronger. What if instead of a personal bond, we created a bond between our species? A new kind of partnership that honors their traditions while serving everyone's interests?" Ambassador Chun shook her head. "Jake, you can't just invent new diplomatic solutions. International treaties don't work that way." "But this isn't an international treaty," Jake pointed out. "This is about their sacred bonding ritual. And if I'm the one who accidentally invoked it, maybe I have the right to interpret what it means." Before anyone could respond, Science Advisor Kell appeared on the main screen. "Engineer Morrison, High Commander Zixara requests your presence for the final meal. She will announce her decision afterward." Jake stood up, his idea growing clearer. In his mind, "I'll be right there." "Jake," Ambassador Chan said, "whatever you're thinking, be careful. Don't make any promises you can't keep." Jake nodded and headed for the airlock. As he walked through the corridors of the Zirathi ship, he noticed more guards than usual. The tension in the air was almost thick enough to touch. High Commander Zixara was waiting for him in her quarters, but she wasn't alone. Warkeeper Thane stood beside her, his expression serious. Science Advisor Kell was also present, along with two Zirathi officers Jake didn't recognize. "Human Jake Morrison," Zixara said formally. "These are War Chiefs Vex and Korath. They have come to witness my decision." The two war chiefs were even more intimidating than Thane, with numerous battle scars and cold eyes that seemed to look right through Jake. He felt very small and very human in their presence. "Please sit," Zixara said. "We have much to discuss." As they shared their final meal, Jake could feel the tension in the room. The war chiefs watched every move he made, clearly looking for any sign of weakness or disrespect. Zixara seemed different too, more formal and distant than she had been during their previous conversations. "High Commander," Jake said finally, "before you make your decision, I want to say something." "Speak," she replied. Jake took a deep breath and looked around the room at all the alien faces watching him. "Over the past week, I've learned a lot about your culture and your people. I've come to understand that the bonding ritual isn't just about two individuals. It's about creating something stronger than either could be alone." War Chief Vex snorted dismissively. "The human speaks of things he does not understand." "Maybe," Jake said, meeting the war chief's hostile gaze. "But I understand this. Both our species are stronger when we work together than when we stand apart. The Zirathi have military strength and advanced technology. Humans have curiosity, adaptability, and a talent for bringing different groups together. What are you proposing?" Zixara asked, though Jake thought he saw a glimmer of understanding in her silver eyes. "I'm proposing something new," Jake said, standing up. "Instead of a traditional life bond between two people, I want to create a bond of understanding between our species. A partnership that honors your traditions while building something that serves everyone's future." War Chief Korath leaned forward. "You dare to modify our sacred rituals?" "I dare to fulfill them in a way that makes both our peoples stronger," Jake replied, surprised by his own boldness. "High Commander Zixara, when I first complimented your eyes, I was seeing something admirable in a person from another species. What if that's exactly what the bonding ritual is supposed to be about? Recognizing worth and strength in others, even when they're different from us." Zixara stood slowly, her eyes never leaving Jake's face. "You propose that our species bond as partners rather than individuals?" "Yes, a treaty based on mutual respect and understanding, sealed by the same ritual that would bind two people, the Zirathi and humans, working together to explore the galaxy and build something greater than either could achieve alone." The room fell silent. War Chief Vex and Korath exchanged glances, clearly not sure what to make of this unexpected proposal. Thane looked thoughtful, while Science Advisor Kell seemed to be rapidly calculating the implications. "This is unprecedented," Zixara said finally. "So was an alien accidentally invoking your bonding ritual," Jake pointed out. "Maybe unprecedented problems require unprecedented solutions." Zixara turned to address the war chiefs. "What Engineer Morrison proposes honors the spirit of our traditions while serving the interests of both our peoples. It transforms a potential conflict into an opportunity for growth. It is not traditional," War Chief Vex protested. "Neither is the situation that brought us here," Zixara replied. "But if we are wise, we can create a new tradition that future generations will thank us for." She turned back to Jake and placed her hand over her heart in the Zirathi gesture of respect. Human Jake Morrison, I accept your proposal for a bond of understanding between our species. May this partnership bring strength to both our peoples and peace to the stars we will explore together. Jake mimicked her gesture, placing his own hand over his heart. High Commander Zixara, on behalf of humanity, I accept this bond. May our friendship be the first of many bridges between the stars. The ceremony that followed was unlike anything either species had ever witnessed. Zirathi eye contact rituals were combined with human handshakes, creating a hybrid tradition that felt both ancient and completely new. War Chiefs Vex and Korath, despite their initial objections, found themselves impressed by the dignity and sincerity of the proceedings.